A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, it is a period of levels and lines dividing the wealthy from the impoverished. While the Kim family struggles to pull themselves up by any means into the orbit of the Park family, secrets lurk in the shadows, going far beyond their own subterfuge. Every choice they make can have deadly serious consequences, and every plan has a good chance of going completely awry. But if the reward is worth it, shouldn't they take the risk? Parasite contains depictions of violence and anti-native racism. It's also a class satire, and we get into that quite a bit. So please proceed according to your needs and comfort level, and know that this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed therein are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of their employers. Hello there, and welcome back to 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. I'm your host, Sam Marchioni. Joining me today is Ellie McConaughey.
I just have to say that I think this movie is just so metaphorical.
And Leif Bradshaw.
Ooh, the rain is so pretty. Totally nobody's suffering flood damage right now.
So today we get to correct an oversight and my fake film buffery. I saw Parasite for the first time, guys. I've been pretending that I saw Parasite for like 6 or 7 years at this point, and now it's finally true.
You've been pretending you'd seen The Matrix, too, and we covered that. Just see the movie, Sam. Or just say you haven't seen them.
Podcast, Ellie.
At the very least, discover memes in their natural habitats.
That's such a funny comparison because, like, I live in Stamford, Connecticut, so I have, like, easy access to New York City. Movies come here first very often. So I was like, I heard of this movie coming out of Cannes, and I'd already love a lot of stuff the director made. You should go see Memories of Murder and Snowpiercer. You heard it here last.
I still gotta watch Snowpiercer. I hear it's so damn good.
All of his stuff, except for Barking Dogs Never Bite, is really good, but Memories of Murder and Snowpiercer are like,
Listen, it's hard for me to give stuff my undivided attention. I am an autistic little bitch who needs comforting background noise. And I'm sorry. That's just how I am.
That's fair.
I'm getting better about it, but I'm still like this. And to make sure that we've gotten the formalities out of the way.
Greetings, I am IER60, Star Wars Recon Connections. Point of intersection found. This is a degree 5, featuring Sam Slater, Dong-Soo Kim, Ballard Sampson, Thomas Carina, James Wright, Min-Hee Kim, Bowman Lee, and Hee Yoon. Additional Oscar material found. Parasite won for Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best International Feature Film, and Best Picture at the 92nd Academy Awards.
Lucasfilm has eaten good off the Korean cinema industry. Let's just leave it there.
I'm surprised they haven't gotten Song Kang-ho in something.
That would require them to put Asian people in focus for anything other than, like, visions or side characters.
But I assumed that going into this, you had the twist already spoiled for you, which I feel is kind of a shame because, as I said, I saw it, like, right as soon as it hit New York City, so everything after, like, for that last 45 minutes, my jaw was on the floor.
So I knew that there was something to do with, like, there's something bad in the basement, but it wasn't what I thought it was. So I did get to preserve some of the oh my god, holy shit stuff.
Ooh, impressive. That all was a surprise to me because I had the good luck of seeing this on the big screen with no context as to what this movie was even going to really be about. So that was real special. Though I'm about to admit a certain losing credit for film nerddom cred. This was the first Bong Joon-Ho movie I ever saw, and it remains, sadly, as of this recording, the only Bong Joon-Ho movie I've seen from beginning to end as of now. But I hope to fix that soon.
We must always acknowledge that film nerds do come in many different shapes and sizes and flavors, and this was also my first and to date only Bong Joon-Ho movie. I know of Snowpiercer. I want to see Snowpiercer. I have a deep abiding fondness for Snowpiercer purely on the story of Bong Joon-Ho basically threatening Harvey Weinstein, but lying. That story gives me joy every single time I hear it.
I first saw Memories of Murder in 2012 with some of my brief stint at film school friends. And as I hope will happen to both of you, I saw one of those movies, I'm like, yep, in. Whatever you want to do, baby, I'm there.
Well, it was definitely really interesting watching Parasite have, among other things, its award season narrative, and Ellie can certainly talk about that as our resident Oscar aficionado.
So like, Parasite's really interesting as an awards darling, because I don't know if you've noticed this, film going public, but a lot of times, best foreign film is where the actual best picture of the year is, but those movies almost never win. And it usually only gets as far as it got. Like, this got as far as it did because basically all the critics around the world went, like, we are going hard for this movie. Neon put their entire Oscar campaign behind it, and it worked. And I think that was sort of an opening of the floodgates. You are starting to see foreign films get nominated for Best Picture, Best Director more often. Not so much the acting categories. I sit here still very sore that Song Kang-ho and Park So-dam didn't get nominated for this movie because they're both so fucking good.
Yeah, I feel ya. I mean, you're talking to someone who's still salty about the fact that practically no awards show out there considers voice acting to be legitimate acting.
I think people might try to push that through this year with the whole discussion around Project Hail Mary, but we're not here to talk about that.
It was very much like everyone I knew was rooting for this movie. Parasite wound up in this kind of weird spot. Shape of Water was in the same spot where, like, everyone knew it was a smart person movie, but it also managed to make the jump to being like a movie that actually makes money, that a lot of people actually see. More people I know have seen Parasite than any of Bong Joon-Ho's other movies. Which
is impressive given the whole 1-inch barrier of subtitles thing. I have quoted that extensively, but it's especially true here. And that's another thing. I am not opposed to subtitles. I want to make that clear, but we have mentioned I am autistic. I am most likely ADHD. If I look away for even a second, suddenly I have to wind the movie back 10 seconds to see what I missed, because otherwise I'm not going to be following jack shit. And that's true of movies in English as well, but it's especially true with movies where I don't speak the language.
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest frustrations working as a ticket taker at a movie theater for a while was that there was such a barrier to people watching movies that weren't in English, because even when it came to more relatively neurotypical, or I guess allistic would probably be more the accurate term, they're so dismissive with ridiculous, honestly, phrases like, I'm not going to read a movie. It's just like, okay, but are you suggesting your attention spans are worse than ours?
So I also am aware that there is a supposedly fairly high quality dub of this movie out there. I've never seen it. I like subtitles, at least in live action. I have a kind of bad reaction to live action movies with dubs.
If there was a dub, it was not available on Canopy. That's right, listeners. I watched this movie on Canopy. Support your local library.
I watched it with my Criterion Collection copy. Also, support physical media.
This has been an official stance of 6 Degrees of Star Wars.
And the biggest night in podcasting. But it is a movie that managed to cross over, I think, because it's a smart person movie when you hear about it, but also, like, it's really fucking fun to watch. It's exciting, it's funny, it's weird, it genuinely shocks you, at least the first time.
Can confirm, lots of surprises watching this for the first time on the big screen. And if memory serves correctly, though I could be misremembering, I think I saw this on the big screen after I found out it was the Best Picture winner, and still somehow I knew almost nothing about the movie beyond it was made by a very acclaimed director and that it was Korean cinema, which I realized I hadn't even given a chance, not even for Old Boy just yet. So I was excited to find out what the fuss was about, and it was nice to see something that really did genuinely surprise me in so many turns and managed to throw me for a loop in so many ways in terms of its tonal variation. I liked how great of a dark comedy and a class commentary movie it ended up being. It was a wonderful experience. For perspective, I was also at a very, very lonely AMC in Seattle at the time when I watched this.
I also think that this movie actually hit at a time when people were kind of ready to receive it, because we were very much in an eat the rich era, but it was also, and this might just be because I recently rewatched all of The Good Place, but the conversation that the Kim family has while they're lounging around in the Park's living room about how, yeah, they're all so nice because money is an iron that flattens everything out. It reminds me of The Good Place's position of, people improve when they get unconditional love and support. What a concept. It's almost like capitalism is the bad guy.
Like, even in my own life, it's so hard to not think of everything as transactional, even when money isn't involved.
It's kind of interesting because, like, one of the things that Bong Joon-Ho has talked about in interviews is, like, he wrote this movie specifically about issues and quirks of South Korea's economics, which you can see in the movie if you know what you're looking at. One of my partners actually walked in partway through and said that he doesn't think that you can really, like, properly translate the really, really rigid social class stratification of Korea into English and make it come across. And I don't know if that's the case. I'm not an expert on Korean culture, so I will take his word for it. And I think he was surprised that it hit quite as hard outside of Korea. And I think that part of the reason why it's had such a long shelf life, it is usually it is a high-ranking name when people are like listing off the best films of the 21st century so far. I think part of that is because it's comments on class. It's a movie of both in terms of its story and in terms of its visuals, a movie of levels and lines. That has only gotten more relevant as time has gone. And those lines and those levels have only gotten more firm as we've gone on in the 7 years since it came out.
Worst economic disparity between rich and poor since the Gilded Age of the late 19th and early 20th century.
Yay.
Which is extremely funny because there is currently an upstairs downstairs series on HBO about the Gilded Age called The Gilded Age. I watch it obsessively because it has all the Broadway people in all the pretty costumes, but man, is it a different experience watching British Lord Julian Fellows try to represent class disparity versus Bong Joon-Ho representing class disparity.
Right, because isn't Sir Julian Fellows a former Tory MP in the UK as well?
Yeah, and he's also the guy who created Downton Abbey. His brand is very much, won't someone think of the poor rich people?
But that's like part of what makes the movie so interesting, because it's not just about rich versus poor. The entire conflict of the third act, the entire spiraling out of control that happens after the big reveal is predicated on two people just absolutely refusing to have class solidarity, absolutely refusing to see each other as a person whose interests align more than the people they're working for or used to work for.
Yeah, the toxic influence of fuck you got mine, which is imprinted on so many of us, basically to discourage solidarity where it would cause problems for the people who actually have more power.
And is there anything more American than that?
There's one thing that's a bit more American than that's in this movie, and that's treating Indigenous Americans like a costume.
I didn't take a lot of extensive notes on this one. I've seen this movie several times, and as I said in the Discord chat, I'm still insane about it. But like one of the things that really struck me on this viewing that I did write down is every single person in the various families will grab onto the rich people are perfect and you're hurting them with your action the moment it benefits them. It's literally just a rhetorical shield. They grab the moment they need it.
Oof. Unfortunately, I don't think any of us are strangers to seeing people with that attitude, and I'm sure that at some point in our lives, whether we realized it or not, we've been guilty of the same thought process at some point in our lives.
Bummer.
Honestly, that kind of makes it even more of a miracle that this movie was able to resonate with a voting body that is very much closer to the Park family than to the Kim family.
Oh, yes, I've heard the stats about how skewed things are with the Academy. Though, to be fair, I fell out of faith with the Academy years before this movie came out. I think officially 2011 was when I gave up on believing that there was anything meritocratic about the Oscars when John Powell lost the Best Score award to Nine Inch Nails, so...
Part of me, and this is like maybe me being a little unfair, this is like seeing art in reverse, but part of me wonders if this would have won Best Picture if the movie that was kind of positioned as the other major Best Picture runner at the time was Joker.
I mean, 2019 was a really weird year, because just to let listeners flash back a little bit, Best Picture nominees were Parasite, which won, obviously, Ford versus Ferrari for our requisite dad vehicle sport movie, The Irishman for our requisite Martin Scorsese, Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit, back when Taika Waititi still commanded some level of respect from Hollywood.
Someday I'm gonna have to work out how I feel about that film.
Joker, Little Women,
Yes.
Marriage Story, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because we were still tolerating Quentin Tarantino at the time. We in the rhetorical sense.
I'll admit that my patience for Quentin Tarantino has completely run out. So in that vein, to quote Marriage Story at Quentin Tarantino, and Tarantino, if you're listening, I don't actually mean this, is just a funny meme. Every day I wake up and wish you were dead. Marriage Story also slaps. I'm tired of not saying it.
Yep. I enjoyed that one quite a lot. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that one. But yeah, 2019, I think back on it, that was such a peculiar year for pop culture. In hindsight, it was technically our last year of what we would think of as some semblance of normalcy, in that sense that it was the last year before the pandemic.
It wasn't even the last year. Like, Parasite won a bunch of Oscars, and then like 2 weeks later, the world went to shit.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So it wasn't even really that. It was more like it was just the last pre-pandemic year, so you just know there are going to be think pieces galore about the pop culture legacy of the year itself. And indeed, the thought occurs, oh yeah, it would have been in the earliest months of 2020 when I saw Parasite on the big screen. It must have been January or somewhere like that. But in hindsight, yeah, that was one of the last going out and doing stuff things I did before we had to begin lockdowns.
In one of the most possible Ellie stories I could ever tell, this was actually the only Oscars ceremony since, I want to say, 2008 that I haven't watched. That I didn't watch live, because On the day it happened, I was taking a train home from Rhode Island where I was playing a Lord of the Rings miniature game tournament.
That's amazing. And certainly a lot less problematic than the Parks kid's obsession, as we see with the party that he has.
We've talked a lot about the context surrounding the movie. Let's talk about the actual movie. Because it kind of starts out as like this comedy heist satire of an impoverished family ingratiating themselves and embedding themselves in the lives of a wealthy family. And then it just goes off the fucking rails.
It so does.
Man, it really does. And already you get a sense of heightened satirical commentary on just how bad the disparity is in that the family that we interact with decides to, no, just let the fumigation happen. In fact, just hold your breath. We need to get rid of these stink bugs. Like, I can't imagine dealing with that.
It's very effective at, like, setting up the family. You know, the first scene of the movie is the son and daughter of the family wandering around their house, holding their phone up to the ceiling, trying to find an unprotected Wi-Fi network so they can get WhatsApp to get their job. You know, that's such a viciously effective little setup to, like, get you up to speed on where they're at.
The thing is, that is, in fact, somewhat of a relatable situation on my part sometimes.
Sometimes I even have to do that in my own apartment, and my bedroom is where we keep the router.
Of course, at the time, for me, it was just an introduction to the fact that Wi-Fi is just one of those English loanwords that just seems to be everywhere in the world, because, of course, it's like the inverse of the whole thing about how we just keep borrowing words from Japanese or Hindi or French because we just don't have a good-sounding translation for those terms. And it's interesting to get reminders of this is true in other languages, too. There are plenty of English terms that are just used because any translation of those terms directly into another language just don't sound as good, I guess.
Obligatory shout out. Hi, Kyle. I remember your video about Parasite and loanwords from the English language that I absolutely watched without understanding what Parasite actually was. And yes, that still somehow did not spoil any of the twists for me.
That is impressive.
It's actually one of the reasons why I'm kind of opposed to the dub. Again, this is a personal preference. I don't like live action dubs, never have, never will. But also, the mother of the rich family dipping into English every so often, I feel like is such an important character beat that gets lost if she's just speaking in English. You know what I mean?
Also, like, there's a whole thing about hiring the son as an English tutor. How do you do English tutor if you're dubbing everything in English?
The best I can say is that anime occasionally does stuff like that.
I can name an example you're thinking of. Whisper of the Heart, one of Studio Ghibli's best movies. But there's one plot point that, if you're watching the English dub, is kind of weird. Because a big plot point is that our main character in that movie is trying to write a translation of the song Country Roads by John Dever, an English language song. And there's a bit where she and her best friend are playfully reading the original lyric of the song and then coming up with their own. But it doesn't land as strong without the context of they're speaking Japanese, but they're practicing their English with this English language song.
And they picked Country Roads? That is not what I'd pick if I were trying to practice my English. But anyway, there was just some absolute batshit stuff going on. I want to know what gave Mrs. Park the idea to be like, yes, I shall call my daughter's English teacher Kevin. Kevin is the name of a male Karen. Like, if a white guy is asking to speak to the manager, 9 times out of 10, I call him Kevin in my head.
Reddit agrees. There's an r/stories about Kevin subreddit, so...
I will say that, like, I read that, and I did not, like, look into this much. I read that sort of partially as, like, that's a kind of, like, stupid thing that we do when we're learning languages in, like, high school, too. You know, you have your Spanish class, and the Spanish teacher tells you to pick a Spanish name. I'm like, no, my name in Spanish is Ellie, because my name is Ellie. You will call me Ellie.
I was so mad about that. I wanted to be Sabrina so badly, but somebody else got to be Sabrina, and I had to be Susana. I was like, no me gusta.
That's your espresso. But also, it's kind of like, she doesn't pick a name. Like, Jessica is the name that Kim Hee-jung picks for herself when she's, like, lying about it. But Kevin is sort of, like, tacked on as, you know, she decides this is your name now. It's just this very fast, like, I've decided this is what I'm going to call you. You don't get a choice. There's a lot in the movie that is just very casual disregard or ownership type language from the rich family. The phone call they make at, like, midnight to the mother when they're out failing to camp is like, I know that she's your employee. That's an insane thing. Oh, wake up and make me ramen at 10 at night. Fuck you.
Yeah, my sympathy went down on that big time.
In the words of Haruhi Fujioka, these damn rich people.
These days I'm more linking the bit from Ready or Not. Fucking rich people.
Yeah, although we didn't get quite to hunting for sport in this one, but fucking rich people is definitely what you say when a mother and a father are getting their freak on while watching their child in a culturally insensitive approximation of a tent that is supposed to be made. I'm trying to avoid saying the word TP.
We know. It's one of those things that doesn't get super examined by the film, but like, that's sort of one of those things where I can't blame Korea for having that cultural idea of Native Americans in their head, because they got it from art that we exported to them. They learned it from watching us.
Exactly. So it's still a commentary in the US in a way.
It seemed pretty clear to me that this was not supposed to be like what Bong Joon-Ho actually thinks about it. And there was like stuff he talked about. The line was, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a commentary on what happened in the United States, but it's related in the sense that this family starts infiltrating the house and they already find a family living there. So you could say it's a joke in that context, but at the same time, the Native Americans have a very complicated and long, deep history. But in this family, that story is reduced to a young boy's hobby and decoration. The boy's mother mentions the tent as a U.S. imported good, and I think it's like the Che Guevara t-shirts that people wear. They don't know the life of the revolutionary figure, they just think it's a cool t-shirt. That's what happens in our current time. The context and meaning behind these actual things only exists as a surface level thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that comes across pretty clearly, especially with the whole, yes, we are going to jump out of the bushes wearing these war bonnets to attack the cake princess.
It kind of gets repeatedly thrown at us that the Park family's son is a cosplayer. He is dressing up in this actual culture because that's what amuses him in this moment. And he dresses himself up as a visionary tortured artist because it amuses him in that moment. Honestly, it's kind of what the daughter is doing too. She dresses herself up and having this relationship with a guy who she barely knows because she doesn't have anything to worry about, you know?
I didn't even think the kid was making it up. I just think the kid's autistic.
I don't think the kid is making it up in the traditional sense. But he's a kid. He thinks, and he's a kid who has anything he wants. Anything he wants, the moment he has it, bam, it's there. He doesn't get to have his camping trip because it gets rained out. If that happened to me when I was 9 years old, sucks to suck. See you at 10. But he gets a whole huge party because his parents are rich and because they don't think about that stuff. It doesn't make him a bad person or necessarily faking being any of the neurotypical signs he shows. It shows that he just doesn't have to think about these things because his parents don't think about them. His parents are sitting around worrying about whether or not their servants are going to cross the line while they fantasize about the things they fired someone for doing.
The privilege of not having to worry about things because they have money is a very big cushion for them.
That bit at where they're fucking on the couch, it really struck me how much they'd fired this guy who presumably was not super well off himself, the original chauffeur. Another sort of example of class solidarity. Bong Joon-Ho is very concerned with class solidarity. He made a kaiju movie where the kaiju was defeated by class solidarity, basically. Go watch The Host. Not the Stephanie Meyer one. Not the Stephanie Meyer one.
We figured as much.
But they fired the chauffeur, who again is probably not a very wealthy person himself. He is a working class person as well, for fucking in an inappropriate place to fuck. And because they sort of like decided, oh, he's on drugs or he's giving his girlfriend drugs, none of which they have any proof for.
Well, why else would somebody leave their panties in the limo instead of just an earring or a few pieces of hair? God, the mother is so, I think hypochondriac is the word, like that she has to put a plastic glove on her hands to handle panties she has already been handling.
And meanwhile, they're sitting there fucking on the couch with their kid in a teepee 20 yards away, and she's fantasizing about doing the thing they fired him for, about getting bought drugs by her husband. They're so bored and lazy that she's sleeping on the table on the lawn in the first scene. That is her in a nutshell. Nothing to worry about, so she worries about everything.
My goodness.
Did I mention I'm insane about this movie?
Truly. And we haven't even gotten to the more insane reveals that come along later on down the line in this whole thing.
I mean, I'm still a little bit fixated on the utter insanity of this family being like an A-level acting troupe. And apparently the daughter has been hired to, I guess, be a fake date at weddings in the past. I'm like, I feel like there was a step we missed here. Like, this is what you're picking? I mean, I know the Korean entertainment industry is notoriously ruthless, which is part of why K-pop Demon Hunters is so appealing as a fantasy, because it has these three leads who are so in control of their own autonomy, and they have a manager who respects them and makes sure that they have their boundaries met and they don't worry about like what they eat.
Ain't that such an idea?
But it's still wild to me that like they get to the point where they have a script and Mrs. Park is so predictable that they can accurately legitimately make this script. And I'm like, what in the Ocean's 11?
Oh, right. Even just practicing, here are your educational credentials. Remember that.
I think that it's kind of just sort of a sign of how much work they're putting in to do jobs they are manifestly qualified to do, because they're doing them.
If only I could pull something similar where I am, because nobody wants to hire me.
Guys, I need to remind you, my day job is as a career coach. I'm not supposed to be at work. I'm not supposed to be thinking about how I optimize your resume for ATS.
I'm sorry.
Do not optimize my resume. My resume must remain unoptimized. It will continue to be a single sheet of paper that reads, I know where you live, give me the job.
As a PSA for our listeners, this movie does unfortunately have one message that is good application to capitalism, and that is the importance of networking. You get so much further in the job search process if you get a referral from another human who has basically said, I like this other human, please hire them, than you will trying to like game the system and like put in all the right keywords. I'm not at work. I'm not at work.
That's how I got my job. But that having been said, as long as we're talking about triggering stuff from the movie, the line during the like party sequence where the father says, you know, in an age where every security guard job attracts 200 college graduates, I was just like, I want to die.
I do love occasionally when there's just something absolutely ridiculous in a movie. Like, I get to point at Parasite and say, yeah, you see that movie with the toilet spitting up in the girl's face? That's a Best Picture winner.
It's not quite as good as that's the Best Picture winner where the lady fucks the fish man, but it's pretty close.
Oh, man.
Or the Best Picture winner where there's a butt plug kung fu fight. And actually, I was thinking, during that speech that Kitek has about don't make a plan, fuck the plan, because nothing matters, it kind of feels like Everything Everywhere All at Once becomes a response to that, because that's also dealing pretty heavily with nihilism and, to a lesser degree, capitalist struggles in that the IRS is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of those philosophies of how we confront the idea that nothing matters, there is no plan, or everything has to go according to plan. And in both cases, the answer is still kind of cling to family. Because I had a moment there, I was like, no, there's no way they're doing like this happy-go-lucky, everything works out ending. And then it pulls away from that fantasy sequence, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to necessarily credit Parasite entirely for this. Green Book and Coda aside, I think that Slumdog Millionaire is probably our post-crash nadir. But like, especially in the 2020s, outside of Coda, even if I don't like all of the Best Picture winners, I don't like one of the 2020's Best Picture winners. No, I will not tell you which one. Listen to my podcast. All of the Best Picture winners are interesting movies. They are interesting picks. And I think that since Parasite, best foreign films have been making their way into the Best Picture discussion more often. Minari and Drive My Car, and, you know, this most recently we had Sentimental Value. It means that the movies that win Best Picture have to try a little harder. And I like that. I like the Best Picture. I like when Best Picture winner is something interesting. Like when the real Green Book's the racism we cured along the way.
Oh, man.
I unfortunately forced Sam to watch that movie. She will never forgive me.
I will have my revenge one day.
I love you,
Sam. One day, I will kick you down a set of stairs into a basement that was only designed to hide from the North Koreans or creditors.
Those two things, equally scary.
Oh, boy, yeah, once we get that reveal. I mean, I was horrified in and of itself by finding out that there was a guy down there who was slowly starving because his food supply got cut off because of the firing of the woman who was doing everything, because weaponizing her peach allergy. That is evil.
Yeah.
It is. And like, part of the reason why I feel like the script could work is because once you've known this woman for 20 minutes, you know exactly how she's going to react to the suggestion there's TB in her orbit.
Yeah. And even that whole greater expansion that we learn about how there's more beneath the surface. I mean, we're already hinted at stuff like that with little things like, oh, when they're at the Parks house, the rain, it's just a nice little relaxing thing to watch and gaze, and they get back to their old house. Oh, the sewer line is super backed up as a result of all this rain, and now their house is even more diseased than it was before because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt so bad for this because they do explain within the movie how the Scholar Rock is like culturally significant and important and like a symbol and everything. But all I could think when I first saw it was the Charlie Brown, I got a rock.
I just immediately thought, that is Chekhov's rock right there. I just know it.
And you were right.
I had to vehemently agree with Chung Suk of food would be better. Fuck your rock. Give me food.
I really love the rain sequence. I think it's the best sequence in the film, both to like emphasize the physical distance that this family has been going to work for the rich family the entire time, but also just like, you know, it's a famous kind of pithy saying, you know, the rain falls on the rich and the poor alike. No, it doesn't. We are watching it how it doesn't actually fall on the rich and poor alike. This is a nice rain with no pollution that makes the rich mother happily. Meanwhile, it's obliterated all these people's lives.
Kind of like that whole thing of punishable by a fine means legal for rich people.
Precisely.
It sure does. And heck, even the phrase, we're all in the same boat here, I mean, you could easily pick that apart of like, okay, sure, we're all in a boat trying to weather a storm, but some of us are on cruise ships and some of us are in tiny little dinghies that are falling to pieces.
Capitalism.
It's very interesting to look at this movie, and, you know, Bong Joon-Ho doesn't really strike you as a filmmaker who takes corporate sponsorships or whatever, but the Park family being the kind that absolutely has that fucking glass bottled water or whatever, like, that is so on point.
I sort of consider bottled water to be the ultimate expression of capitalism, partially because, yeah, a lot of places it's literally just an affect, but maybe even more importantly, it is the literal thing that falls from the sky that all of society needs, and that is being taken away by all of these companies and sold back to us at a premium. Capitalism in a nutshell is bottled water.
It's literally one step away from bottled air.
This movie's kind of a bummer sometimes. I apologize.
Yeah, like I get that there are some places where the water main is not potable, so bottled water makes sense, but my solution to that is make the drinking water potable then, for crying out loud. Get a good water main, get good plumbing.
Did we ever get Flint water fixed?
Flint, Michigan declared its water safe in August 2025, but skepticism still remains.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm still taking that to the lab before I know for sure.
So let's talk about thousands of miles away, capital. That's not untiring. Go see Okja. It's a Bong Joon-Ho movie. It has a giant magical pig in it. Very good. Very heartwarming.
So, Ellie, I believe you said you wanted to talk about how Bong Joon-Ho shoots groups of people interacting.
The video that sort of made this popular in film circles is a Every Frame a Painting video, so go watch that too. But like, one of the things I love about Bong Joon-Ho is he's very deliberate in his camera work. I feel like a lot of group dialogue scenes, especially kind of like mid-budget ones, people just sort of like set up singles for all of the actors and just like make decisions in post. And one of the things I really love about Bong Joon-Ho is he will pull the camera back out and let the characters interact in frame. You know, you can see that during the party scene especially. You know, you will see the son and the father and the mother all talking with the daughter kind of lounging in the background, and then she will pop up to get involved in the conversation and then fall back down. It's a really good way of letting us see not just the actors' chemistry, because all the actors have great interactions, but like seeing dynamics like play out in real time rather than like constantly cutting between them. And I imagine it saves a bunch of time on set. I think that it goes without saying, especially if you've seen other Bong Joon-Ho movies, like this movie's writing, not just writing, this movie's directing and editing and soundtrack are just fucking immaculate. The scene where they are executing their plan to get the housekeeper fired and get the mother her job is like genuinely an incredibly perfectly put together scene, just top to bottom, A+, no notes. See me after class so I can give you more assignments.
Yeah, fuck you, Ford versus Ferrari. Young Jin-mo should have gotten this award.
I really like how while the camera is very dynamic, it's mostly very locked off, stays at the same level. Up until the only real handheld shot is when it goes down into the basement on the stairs. Like, that's the first time the camera's really handheld. I really like that.
I really liked the cinematography of Gensei coming up for the first time. Like, yeah, Da-sung, I get it. That would traumatize me too, and I'm an adult person.
It's a good shot.
And they got the lighting just right to actually, like, make him look like a ghost.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it when the people working on projects like this genuinely care about everything in filmmaking. It's nice when the cinematography actually looks like it was done with purpose. It's great when the editing, the blocking, you name it, all that kind of stuff that we take for granted actually seems like it was done purposefully, as opposed to, we just got to wrap this up as fast as possible.
Parasite didn't win most of the technicals it was up for, and as I complained about earlier, it wasn't nominated for any acting award, which is absolute horseshit. We still haven't gotten a lot of movies get to having foreign films and acting awards, although we're getting there. Sentimental Value had several.
We have to admit, it's not just the foreign side of things, it's also the not white side of things.
Mm-hmm. I won't begrudge the best cinematography going to 1917. My boy Roger deserves every Oscar he can get his hands on, because they ignore him way too often.
One of the all-time great DPs that Hollywood and Britain have ever had. Like, he just does not miss, so I get it.
Yeah, he's incredible, and for some reason they never, give him it for his best movie, so I'll let him have it for 1917. I actually do like 1917. It's a ride movie, but it's quite a ride.
But the third act of Parasite sure was a ride, that's for sure.
Ford versus Ferrari. Come on, man. You don't gotta you can nominate the dad movie. Actually, you don't gotta say that you nominated it for the dad movie. 1917 is also kind of a dad movie. Dads love the world wars.
Honestly, the ultimate dad movie to me is Boys in the Boat, because that is war movie and sport movie And the only thing that could have made it more dad movie is if all the boys in the boat got to line up to punch Hitler.
I think that's a really good dad movie. My ultimate dad movie, personally, is just always going to be Master and Commander. Just like the daddest of dad movies.
Yeah, if not for the gendered associations with being fond of horses, I would have said Steven Spielberg's War Horse would be that, but, you know.
I just know that all the Tumblr girlies lose their minds over that one scene of Tom Hiddleston. And, like, bringing it back to Tumblr and therefore to Parasite, the one thing I knew about this movie for the longest time was Jessica, only child, Illinois, Chicago.
Yep.
You didn't know the father, the Song Kang-ho, staring out the windshield with the mother in the background in barely contained rage.
That is iconic, that image.
I did know that, but it took long enough to get on my radar that by the time I started seeing it, I didn't even really fully know that it was from Parasite. Because I think by the time it properly got on my radar, we were just deep into fuck these fucking rich people.
I'm obviously not going to complain, but like, fuck these fucking rich people has kind of become a recurrent theme in a lot of movies nowadays.
I mean, The Menu is one of my favorite movies from this decade so far.
Yeah, I love The Menu.
I mentioned Ready or Not a few minutes ago. Even when the rich people are the main character, there's bodies, 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 which is, yes, the rich people are the main characters, but fuck these fucking rich people. Also, a podcast takes a lot of work, okay? But it's been a shockingly influential movie. I'm very glad to see it become not just a Best Picture winner, but a movie that people remember. You know, there are, as I know, plenty of Best Picture winners just fade more or less the minute they've won the Oscar. I'm glad this one hasn't. I think we'll be talking about this one for a very long time. And I'm glad to see that I am still, in fact, insane about it.
You are insane about a lot of things.
This is how it feels to be an autistic person in a room with other autistic people, and I absolutely adore this.
I have a whole scale of movies named after me. Speaking of, Sam, where do you think this lands on the Ellie what the fuck scale?
Honestly, I didn't look at this very much as an Ellie what the fuck thing. Listeners, if you are following me on Letterboxd, my handle is Demisem, that's DEMISEMME. I have a list on there called Avoidant Restrictive Film Intake Disorder, which is a shout out to the fact that among my other maladies, I have ARFID, which is basically medical picky eating. Like, my body is viscerally reacting to certain foods. And on my ARFID list are films such as Nope and The Godfather and The Worst Person in the World, where I'm like, I recognize that these are delicious, nutritious films that are good for me. I don't want to partake of them. And the first thing I wrote on my notes of Parasite was, please don't let this end up on the ARFID list. And I'm still mulling over whether it goes on that list or not. I kind of had this same reaction when I went and I saw Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, which is much more something that I would consider an Ellie what the fuck movie. But I would not consider this an Ellie what the fuck movie, and talking with you guys about it, I don't think that this goes on my ARFID list either, because it's a really good movie, and I think that I definitely could get a value out of watching it again, and I wouldn't feel uncomfortable or bored or wander off, and not just because I need to stay focused to read the subtitles.
Hey, fair enough.
That's sort of the answer I was expecting. It's not very much an Ellie what the fuck movie. I think that those are kind of defined by a degree of unpleasantness about watching them, either because they're very, very long or very, very hard to parse, or because they're just kind of like emotionally traumatizing. And to be clear, I love watching movies that emotionally traumatize me. I am wearing a t-shirt from I Saw the TV Glow.
The namer of the scale.
I am so afraid to watch that movie.
You should be scared, Leaf.
And I'm going to see the director's next movie a month early, for a privilege for which I paid like $50.
Good for you.
I'm the sort of person who touches a piece of art, goes, ow, that touched a raw nerve. Let me touch it again.
Wow, pain is hilarious.
I don't know what precisely that says about me, but it makes my taste interesting. I'll just say that.
I think what it says is that a horrible thing happened to you on the way to the gender this morning.
I mean, hey, my favorite Canadian movie is Videodrome. There's a lot you can interpret out of what that might say about me.
Oh man, I love Cronenberg. If you like Cronenberg, you're gonna like I Saw the TV Glow.
I was terrified to watch Videodrome the first time. I'm sure it's gonna be the same for I Saw the TV Glow. Though I do wonder if either were capable of inspiring the same terror I got when I learned the meaning behind that blinking light bulb. Oh my god. The context for that.
How fucking long did it take to send that whole ending letter in Morse code?
It's gotta be like 45 minutes.
At least.
Well, if you've got nothing else to do.
How did he survive that concussion as well? That was the toughest thing to suspend disbelief over for me.
Because Dahe grabbed him and was carrying him out on her back.
Mm-hmm.
Because she decided that he was one of their own and so was worthy of saving, in the same way that despite how much the family supposedly loves Jessica, she's being stabbed on the ground and their priority is give us the keys to the car so that we can take our son to the hospital.
It's one of those things where, like, on the one hand, I can understand that, but his, like, utter inability to understand, like, hey, guys, I know that he fainted. That's probably not great for him. Did you notice the part where she got stabbed? Did you notice the part where these two are fighting for their lives? Maybe you could, like, interfere in that, perhaps? Do something?
And it literally takes, like, Mr. Park wrinkling his nose because Gensei smells horrible from being down in the basement for Kitek to be like, oh, I need to remember who the real enemy is, but it's too late, motherfucker.
Uh-huh.
It is kind of like an extremely Pyrrhic action right there. And it's just like, it's kind of like the tragedy of it, because they could have kept it going if they sort of set it up, the opening scene with the pizza generation stuff. Like, the mother is so spiteful when she's crossed that she sees some leverage to use over this woman and she just can't help but, like, poke at it, and it fucks them all over. It gets multiple people killed. Learn some class solidarity, then you won't be killing each other over who gets to live in a basement.
Again, I'm still learning to appreciate the value of friends in so many ways, because it was tough to make them for a while, and I feel like the fact that that's been improving has played a big part in increasing the ability to think in terms of class solidarity, because I remember really taking to heart that a popular maxim, no man is an island, but rather a piece of the bigger continent, and thinking that way, it's tough to actually take that to heart, and it is difficult when you're raised in a society that hyper values individualism over thinking collectively, over thinking about the overall needs of the group.
It strikes me once again that the guy, even in his final moments, the most pathetic character in the movie, is like dying on the lawn, and he still wants to just shout how much he respects this man. He respects the Park family's patriarch, even though this man has nothing but contempt for him.
That is so sad.
Mm-hmm.
That is the curse of capitalism. Just making a bunch of bootlickers when we should be looking at guillotines.
Right?
For legal reasons, Gary the FBI agent and Tucker the NSA agent, this is a joke.
You can see the flip side of that with both of the poor families. Both of them are champing at the bit for the opportunity to be the one who wears the boot on the other one, when instead they should be wondering why there's a boot in the first place.
Again, a commonplace curse against class solidarity. We think of rising up the class ladder as a means to escape our current predicament, as opposed to a means to try and make the lower level predicaments less of a thing to deal with for a lot of people.
Lyndon B. Johnson had a thing about this. It was a racial thing of, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you.
Yep, I've heard that quote quite a few times.
Where does this fall on $100 million in studio interference versus $50,000 in a ham sandwich?
The budget was $11 million, so it's not like a micro budget. This is not castration movie over here, but it is a low budget movie.
If this were the 70s, that would make it barely more expensive than the original Star Wars was.
For comparison, Love Lies Bleeding had a budget of $10 million, so like that's where we're at budget, which is also a movie that looks like it was shot very deliberately.
Gee, it's almost like when you give people a tight budget and they have to stick to it, they do better work.
I mean, what's that saying? Necessity is the mother of invention?
Something like that.
Or, to admit quote perhaps a bit of a problematic person, you'll find when my back's against the wall, Paul, I am better at writing songs.
It is comparable to another movie that is just like genuinely one of the best directed movies of the last few years, another Korean movie, A Decision to Leave, which puts more effort into shooting two people talking in an otherwise empty room than most people put into shooting their big action sequence. You must see it.
That is the thing that really bothers me the most about the over-reliance on green screen and CG. It's used basically to excuse not putting effort into scenes that people know ahead of time are going to be super effects heavy, so they don't actually plan them and are just like, it's all right, we'll fix it in post. No, this should be when you're planning what you're doing. Plan it. Plan your action scenes.
But unfortunately, if you make a plan, then the plan's going to go fucked and nothing matters. And I know nothing matters, but I do have a plan of my own and I want to follow that plan, so I have to ask you, is the Force with it?
Absolutely, the Force was with it. 10 out of 10, no notes. I will remain insane about it.
Yep, I would say it's strong with this one. Yes, indeed. I appreciate that it exists in so many ways. I especially respect the fact that it managed to have as much mainstream appeal as it did, considering that in theory it had a lot going against it. And I like how it kind of birthed a bit of a trend over here on this continent in terms of a lot of prestige dramedies that have since been made. That in and of itself I find most pleasurable.
Wonderful. I will make it unanimous and give it my own. Forces with it. I had a good time with this, and I'm glad I finally can stop pretending I've seen it and just say I've seen it. Forces with it.
Welcome to the club.
Who has pluggables.
As always, you can find me on Bluesky, Medium, and Letterboxd at LSR42, on Tumblr at Football in Tuxedos, and as I'm sure you know, you can find my own podcast, The Biggest Night in Podcasting, where we talk about Oscar-winning films. Go ahead and check it out.
You can certainly find me on a lot of the socials. You can find me on Facebook at Leaf Bradshaw Music or on Instagram at Leaf Bradshaw Sings. I'm also an aspiring voice actor, so if you're looking for someone to lend a voice to, you can find me on Casting Call Club under my own name, Leaf Bradshaw. And I also am dabbling in podcasting. Still not a lot out just yet, but there's plenty more in the works. It's called the Disney Outlands, the podcast where we review the feature films, short films, episodes, and adaptations that are found not on Disney's regular streaming services, despite being produced by the Disney company.
And in the spirit of Star Wars, to be there for the people who need us, this episode is going to break from our usual method of highlighting a mutual aid fund or charity of some kind, and instead bring attention to the No Fakes Act. This legislation is a crucial part of the fight to regulate AI in the United States, providing every American with protection against their voice and likeness being used in an unauthorized computer-generated recreation. This in turn helps stop the spread of misinformation and manipulation such as deepfakes and revenge porn. The link provided is going to take you to the Action Network page that will help you sign the petition and write to your congressional representative, but you also have the option to reach out to your representative directly through their website. The link is going to be in the description as well as on my various socials at Demisem. Our theme music is provided by Refractory Period, the two girls, one beat synth pop sensation. You can follow them on Instagram at Refractory Period, the band. To further support this podcast, please subscribe to us on your platform of choice, leave reviews, and share with your friends to boost our visibility, and consider joining Patreon. And now, it's time to turn to the Chance Cube to see where the journey takes us next.
4.
It is a 4. So for our next episode, we are going to be covering Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles.
Oh boy.
Yeah, excited. And everything below the waist is kaput.
This is gonna be a good one. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, stay beautiful, and may the Force be with you.